Ron Mark.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the Young Offenders Serious Crimes Bill be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, this has been a rather long and torturous road to this point, and I fear that the indications from the Select Committee report and further discussions that I've had with members of the National Party team are going to present some of us in this House with a bit of a disappointment. I want to take a moment to remind the House why we brought this bill to the House, and I guess tragically we need look no further than the New Zealand Herald this morning. The New Zealand Herald's headline, "Grandfather dies after bashing." And once again, Madam Speaker, we are seeing another case which has all the hallmarks of youth offending written all over it. And the great tragedy, as I look at this headline and read the story and having heard the morning report this morning, is that we will probably find the same thing. If it turns out that these offenders who committed this horrendous crime and who killed Graham Wallace Arcus while he was walking home from church, we will probably find the same litany of reasons and excuses, and we'll hear the same calls from the same quarters asking for more social justice, more consideration, more care, more understanding. I have no doubt they'll be labelled as brown and from a broken home. And that will be the catch cry that will require us all to look at our shoes and wonder how these poor young men could have ever fallen to such a level that they would kill an innocent elderly man walking home from church. And that is the fear I have, and I guess time will tell over the next few months as to whether or not my assessment and the assessment of other MPs in the House is accurate or not. The fact is, Madam Speaker, for decades, for 30-odd years, or since 1989, we have had a youth justice system that has been touted and lauded and applauded as world-leading, something that's envied all over the world. It's reduced youth offending. Well, the facts are quite the opposite. The facts are, and you will see in the Select Committee report, that violent offending by young people has gone up 43%. In the interdepartmental reports that we had an opportunity to examine in the committee, we learned that privately and confidentially behind closed doors, officials are writing to each other expressing grave concern about the ferocity and the increasing frequency of extreme violent crime. And yet these same officials have the audacity to tell the public and tell the members of the House and tell the committee and tell ministers that it's all under control, and it's not out of control, and the youth justice system is working. Why we're even envied all around the world. Well, you take me to a country where they envy a 43% increase in violent, vicious crime, where they envy the fact that, or 47%, sorry, that 43% of all apprehensions for all crimes committed across all categories in all age groups involve people aged 10 to 20. 43% was the figure we were given. When we're told that one of the 4 mitigating factors that are considered as to where we allocate the extra 1,250 police is the amount of time or the youth density within a population in a community and the amount of time police spend with youth crime. It's 24% of all police time is spent dealing with youth offending. Remembering, of course, that the legal definition of youth is 14 to 16. Madam Speaker, I said right from the outset that this bill was drafted for New Zealand First. Had a lot of criticism, but I have to say it was drafted by PCO for us. A lot of rather interesting comments by some learned people about the quality of drafting. I'm not a lawyer, I don't write these things myself. I get people who do know how to write law to write it for us. But we made it clear at the time that we drafted this bill, there are a number of things that happened that astounded and appalled the public. Michael Choi, Kenneth Piggott, both murdered by young offenders. And it wasn't the issue of the actual inaccountability for murder that was raising the public's concern. It was the fact that had Michael Choi survived the horrendous beating, Bailey Kahuriki would have walked away because he couldn't have been charged for grievous bodily harm or dealt with in the way that he was. So we raised this bill. It took 4 years to come out of the lotto, and when it finally got here, we made clear to the House that we were no longer seeking a lowering of the age of criminal responsibility to 10, we were seeking from 12. The title was important to us because the title of the bill is the Young Offenders Serious Crimes Bill, not the Youth Offenders, and there's a clear reason for that. Youth narrows the mind to 14 to 16. We are interested in young offenders aged 10 to 20 because that's where 43% of the crimes of the apprehensions lay, nationwide, all categories, all age groups. The reason, well, I've explained the reason, and sadly we have more evidence in the newspaper today as the need for such legislation.